Hello, it's wonderful to have you here today so that we can continue with our study of the Medium's book. We are studying the chapter, The Extraordinary and the Supernatural, and
Yes.
we have stopped in item 14, right? So
Yes.
I'm going to share the screen here. So like as always, we can continue reading and commenting and using this opportunity to further down our understanding about all this that we have received in terms of knowledge from the spirits. So our reader's not here today. I don't know, Zoraida, would you like to? It's you, right,
Yes.
Zoraida?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes. It's
thought it
me.
was Philip. Okay. For a
I'm
moment there,
here.
I thought it was Philip. So
I'm
that's
here. I'm here.
okay.
Okay. So we begin.
Yes.
Okay. 14. Let us summarize our stance in the following propositions. 1. All spirit phenomena has as their principle the existence of the soul, its survival upon the death of the body, and its ability to manifest itself.
Okay, let's stop here. I thought maybe it would be good for us to go item by item in
Yes.
spite of seeing very clear, but he is definitely summarizing something that is very important, and see if you have comments to add or even questions, and maybe we will say much about the same, but just to be sure that everyone is going to have it very clear. When in this whole chapter, Kardec is talking about the phenomena that started becoming more scrutinized, so to say, and is spread out in many places of the world in the mid 1800s, with the phenomena that were happening here in Hydesville with the Fox sisters, and then so many other places, and that Richard France, and that led to all the research by Kardec. And of course, there were many people that didn't or were not willing to use their time, their possibilities to be able to understand more, and it started just criticizing and saying this is impossible, and very much like we have people up to this day that has only a materialistic vision of life. For them to be talking about spirits, to be talking about communication, to be talking about phenomena that are not explained yet by science, it would be very, very confusing. But in a way, and Kardec mentions that in this chapter, that it is okay, it is understandable, but then at least you should recognize that you do not possess all the knowledge, all the understanding, and it is just up to you to go there and at least try to understand more. And even if there is limitation, right, for us to open our minds more to understand that this is part of our history. So many phenomena that before were unexplained. So I would pray to a god, then I would have more rain. We know today that I can pray to all the gods humanity believe, and it's not going to rain if it's not supposed to rain, right? There could be other factors that may provoke rain, but not because I'm just praying to a god. And so when he says here that everything starts with the existence of the soul, it's very serious business, you know.
Yeah.
If we don't have this very clear in our minds, that we are soul, we are immortal spirit, that we survive after the death of our body, and then because of that, we have the ability to communicate. And many people at this point will say, oh, well, I don't see spirits communicating everywhere. Thank God, because otherwise there would be not enough place in a mental institution for all of us to go, right? People would think that there is a collective case of craziness. And since we do know that spirits, when the death of the body happens, they do not receive a certificate of know-it-all, and I'm a superior spirit. There will be spirits of all different levels. So this means to say that it can be very disturbing for us. It could be very disturbing for us to be seeing spirits all the time. We know of mediums that have this capability, and how much this has caused trouble in their day-to-day lives. For instance, the renowned humanitarian spiritist medium Divaldo Pereira Franco, he doesn't drive exactly because of that. The first time he decided to drive, he kept on stopping because he would be seeing spirits crossing the road, and he would be stopping all the time, and there was no spirit, people there. He could just go. It wouldn't hurt them. I mean, this is just one thing. He had problem in his work because he worked in the in a governmental institution where he was an attendant, and he had to talk with people that would go there to to request information, things like that. And many times he didn't know whether he was talking to alive or dead people. And then he had a friend that helped him, saying, yeah, this guy is here. Because many times he would go there and he almost lost his job because of this. So we don't have, thank God, the open possibility of seeing this, but this doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. In the same way that I can, up to today, place some food in the microwave and remove it a minute later, all warm and delicious, and say, this is a miracle.
Yeah.
Right? It is a miracle.
Yes, it is.
But the thing is, we just don't say it is a miracle in the sense of how we understand the word miracle, because we know that we could say afterwards, wow, how ignorant of what is happening during this 1 minute I am. It's because of ignorance. Right? I don't know how it functions, how they can, make microwaves manifest in a tiny box and warm my food. But at least I have the distance of saying, no, this is not possible. This is supernatural. I have a supernatural box in my house. I mean, actually several, right? Because we have the dishwashing, the washing machine, the refrigerator, the stove. If you have a gas stove, you can even say, oh, it's gas. Okay, but we have so many supernatural machines. The TV, how about the computer, right? Where we are talking now. So this is one thing that is spiritism lead us to in a way or how to position ourselves. Do not reject things unless you know for sure with proof from science and everything else that this is not a fact. It doesn't ask us to be naive. That's why this is the doctrine of reason. We have to reason, we have to understand. So just by accepting my ignorance in relation to, even today, I do not understand how planes can fly.
Right.
But this does not stop me to
Fine.
to fly on them, right? So, but this is what we are talking about here in terms of accepting this principle. We are mortal spirit. The body is just an instrument, and it doesn't mean that when the body no longer serve its purpose because it's more connected with the material aspect of life, that we are going to vanish. And that even if we do not vanish according to the belief of the majority of religions and the spiritual beliefs, that there would not be a way for us to be close to our interests and to our loved ones. Any questions and comments? Okay, let's read the second then.
Okay. Number 2. Since they result from a law of nature, these phenomena have nothing extraordinary or supernatural about them, at least in the common meaning of these words.
You see, when we think about how much proud we are, and all full of ourselves, for us to have to admit that there is so much that we do not understand, that we are ignorant about. That's why they say, and even in some of the Jesus teachings, when he mentions that, I don't remember exactly the quote, but it means that the mysteries are easily apprehended by the simple ones, because the learners, the scholars, are always so full of themselves, because they think that they can substitute God. When we talk about, for instance, in vitro fertilization, when it all started, there was this idea that they were playing God. Now we can make life happen, right? We can make life happen. And after so many trials and much more failures in the process, they say, how come some work and some don't? It's the same formula. If you keep on baking the same cake, right? If it's just matter, just, you put there everything that you need to bake a cake. And I always use these examples of cake, right? So, right. Oh, I'm a cake eater.
Yes, I know.
Oh, gosh. You do exactly the same. You put it in the oven, then you have your cake. And so they do exactly the same. Put it in the oven, right? the woman oven, and it doesn't happen once, twice, 3 times. So now we understand that it's because we are not talking about making matter. We are talking about the connection of a spirit, right? And so if there is not this, let's call it spark of life from God, it's not going to happen. But we have this tendency of now, that we know a bit more, of thinking that we know it all. And if there is something that escapes our understanding, it is because it's not possible, because we know so much already. We are big guys, and we barely living, you know, the phase of crawling, right? Our diapers behind, in the spiritual terms. And so another thing that is very important when we are talking about that is to understand here that we are talking about laws of nature. And there is an immensity of knowledge in relation to law of nature that we do not understand. And so just to discard them, or to look at them as being the result of miracles, or no, this is something that I do not yet know how to work. And so to keep an open mind. Any question, comment?
I actually have a comment, just sorry. I think that this is from my own experience. Even coming from a family that has, is very spiritualist, they've gone to different, part of the family spiritism, part of the family from Umbanda. When I was reading, reading the books and understanding mediumship, and one other thing that's just stuck in my mind, the fact that it was mentioned, and I think Divaldo explains this, that mediumship is processed in the body, so it's an organic process, right? So it's not really, although you have a connection with spirit, which is outside of you, it's being processed in your body, right? There's a connection. That's why he said when you alter your state by alcohol or anything, it does affect your mediumship, right? Because of that, it's the body's processing that. To me, it was a big discovery. My own ignorance, right? Like learning how to think of it's very humbling, because you think about the fact that I don't know doesn't mean that's not happening, right? The process of things within the cellular level, the molecules, everything is involved. But there's the whole idea about thinking the phenomena as something supernatural, right? It's happening within the organism, so it should be all in sync. We just don't have the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it was a big point of discovery, something that was right in front of me, right?
Yeah, it's interesting what you're bringing, Jose, because that I was thinking about like say a concrete example, and I was thinking, even about a computer, right? In order to charge the computer, I need to have this I don't know how to call it, the outlet, the place where I'm going to link the cable, right? The hole where I'm going to link the cable to charge it. So I have the electricity, I have the cable, I have the possibility of, passing energy. But if your body do not have the little entrance where I can connect the cable. So this is what, what you were talking about. So we all have physical bodies, but our connection to receive, then talking about mediumship, right? Being able to act as a medium, it needs to be in the physical body as well. In order for this connection to happen. Of course, since everyone is a medium according to Kardec, there must be some that will have just one entrance, medial level connection. And there is another one that will have, let's say, two entrances, higher connection to make you a medium, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Thank you.
Anything, any comments?
Yeah.
Okay, number 3 then.
Okay. Number 3, many events are regarded as supernatural because their cause is unknown. And having determined their true cause, Spiritism has relegated them back to the domain of natural phenomenon.
Yeah, one of the things that could, because of magnetism, at that time that everyone was so naive, we may have had a display of magnetism like, rubbing two things and then it provokes some sort of reaction. It has nothing to do with mediumship. Other things that people were, just saying, oh no, I heard a knock. That must be the spirits communicating with you. No, it's your wood floor. Maybe I'm sure it happened in your house as well. How they change during summertime and expand and reduce during summertime and winter, and there might be cracks, or like today, people look from a distance, something flying, let's say a blimp flying, that it doesn't have the shape of a plane, and they say it's a flying saucer, right? It's a UFO. And I'm not saying that they do not exist. I'm just saying we cannot just classify things as being the result of a spirit phenomenon. There are things that we still don't know that may be happening. And again, it's always another invitation for us to be very rational about things. Okay. 4.
Okay. 4, number 4. Among the incidents called supernatural, Spiritism shows many of them to be impossible in the first place, and therefore places them amongst superstitious beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, we all know some superstitions, right? If you see a black cat or walk below a ladder, so many things that maybe what is the beginning of all that? Maybe sometime in a very very long time, someone crossed a black cat and immediately after was hit by a horse. Didn't have cars at that point, right? Or perish in the war, or if someone passed under a ladder and same thing, something happened, right? There must be an origin for all of this, but nowadays we know that we cannot generalize things. It's not because I'm knocking on wood that things are not going to happen. It doesn't hurt though. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But why? Because when I do that, I'm already bringing a positive thought in my mind, and everything that is positive coming from my mind is going to contribute for positive things around me. That's why, if I knock on wood and I say, now nothing bad is going to happen to me, it's not because I knocked on wood, but because I had this statement very clear in my mind. And so I'm not going to be attracting, in terms of energy, the law of attraction, right? Bad things to happen to me. Okay. Any comments, any superstition you want to share with you?
I do have one. It's not super related to spiritism, but regarding to the black cats, after volunteering at the animal shelter, so sad to see that the black cats are not adopted as many as any other color of cat, just because of the color, just because they're black. And I can tell you they're the sweetest cats.
Aww.
All right. My son has a cat. She's totally black and she's the sweetest cat. So it's sad that because of superstition and based on something that I have no idea how that came from, but So the truth is, black cats are being euthanized much more than any color of cat, just because of this fur color.
Mm.
Oh,
So
my
it's sad.
You still work there? No.
No, I
Okay.
continue at the shelter.
Because I was going to ask you maybe for a black cat. My son has a black cat as well. And like you said, she is the sweetest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's amazing because I had my reserves with cat and I was always more like a dog person, but after her, I'm changing. And I mean, she is sweeter than my dog. And I said, I've never seen that in my life. And yeah, and she's adopted as well. Okay, interesting. Oh, and-
I could add on that. I
Yeah.
had
oh,
I
yeah.
had also a cat. It was a Siamese cat, black,
Uh-huh.
black from the head to the toe. Beautiful cat, Siamese. She was very intelligent. She was loving. She was the best cat. I mean, and she lasted like, my God, my kids were very young until they were teens. And she passed away. And to this day, I think of her and brings such good memories and loving memories. So anyone who says about black cats, absolutely like they say here, just like you explained, they just don't know,
Yeah.
don't know.
Mhm. Okay.
Should I continue now? We're on 5, right?
I was just remember that I once went to Finland to give some talks, and I went to a place where many people were it was like a farm, and many people were there, you know, for the talk next day, and they had a black cat, beautiful black cat. And from the moment I arrived, the cat stayed by my side all the time. And then, you know, the tradition there is still very much more in the spiritual shamanic way of living. And then they told me that the cat is a healer. I said, well, I must be very well healed because the cat didn't leave my side and even went to my bed. I don't know, maybe the cat was protecting me because they are very, very, very good in this sense, but it was a beautiful black, green eye cat, like, you know, neon light eyes. Okay, let's go ahead.
Number 5,
Mhm.
although Spiritism recognizes a basis of truth for many popular beliefs, it absolutely does not accept all the fantastic stories created by the imagination.
Yeah, I guess it touched a little bit what we were just saying, you know, it's not the knocking on wood that is going to prevent, but now that we know that we communicate and we open our channels, so to say, to other minds, to energy that is lingering around, if I start thinking something bad is going to happen to me, something bad is going to happen to me, I'm going to connect with the waves, like I'm, you know, I'm going to dial my radio to this kind of, you know, vibration. And so now it's what Kardec more or less is saying here. There are things that still, we will say, belong to the realm of fantastic stories. I don't know if I eat a certain leaf. If I get pregnant, my son is going to be born as an elf. Okay, I mean, it may even have pointy ears, but it's not because of the leaf. It's genetics. It's something that happened, a mutation, but it's not going to be because of the leaf. So those things is that Kardec, as a scientist, as a researcher, wanted to make it very clear. You know, all of you want to dismiss the existence of spirits just because you cannot see with your, you know, naked eyes, but it doesn't mean that they are not there. It doesn't, or when he was researching, is it easier to believe that a table is communicating than to believe that there is a mind behind this talking to you through a table? I mean, like he said, how can a table have brain? How can it gives you reason? Many of those things here, would come from a table, tilting once, twice, 3 times to be the letter C, 4 times to be the letter D, that's what was his thinking. What is more extraordinary, supernatural in this case? You believing in the table, or that maybe the soul survives, the spirit survives, and somehow is able to manifest using material things, the displacement of objects, or, all that we understand now in terms of mediumship to communicate. Question, comment? Okay, number 6.
Okay, number 6, to judge spiritism by facts that it itself does not accept is to show proof of ignorance and complete disregard for the correct opinion.
Yeah, so here, the idea as well is, if you believe in something, you believe in everything. Oh, so if you believe in the existence of the spirits, you believe in an example is not coming to my mind. In other things, they are more related to something that it touches more the reign of a mythology than necessarily reality. So spiritism and spiritists should be very down to earth in terms of everything that is happening. Like I said, we keep an open mind, we do not discard, we research whenever our time makes it possible to do it. And even if then I cannot accept this as a fact, it doesn't mean that it's not a fact, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to embrace it just blindly.
Okay. Number 7, the explanation of the phenomenon accepted by spiritism, along with their causes and moral consequences, comprise an entire science and philosophy in and of themselves, and they require serious, persevering, and in-depth study.
Yeah, we have to remember that at the time that spiritism came in term, because it was not only about mediumistic phenomena, right? Mediumistic phenomena were happening all around the world, and people couldn't care less about the reasons why this was happening. They just were too much, curious to know more about things and about, their future and things like this. But the way that Kardec places it as a science, and they start conducting all this research and passes it through the universal control of all the messages, because he didn't just get from the 1,019 questions and answers that we have from the Spirit's book. The answers didn't just not just come through one medium. It came from many different mediums, and then he was going to compile everything and say, well, this matches, and mediums that were in different places. So now we are talking about a serious phenomena that in the spiritism understand is more to make us realize about who we are and what we are doing here, and working to improve ourselves. So it's to lead to these moral consequences. And we know that at that time, many people were questioning the validity of the communication with spirits. They try to say, you know, if a spirit were communicating and would say everything, or, you know, many of the details about Marlene's life, okay, how many, how old she is, for how long she lives in Texas, and children, and all of that, you know, and best friends and animals and all of that, without us anyone having this information. People would come and say, no, it's because you are reading the subconscious of Marlene. Oh my God, if I am able to read the subconscious of Marlene, this is extraordinary as well, right? It may not be mediumship, but they wanted to explain or to say, this is not mediumship. This is you having the possibility of assessing her mind. Okay, right? So they went to the point of creating something even more extraordinary, because mediumship is already, you know, something, wow, right? Just to say, no, it's not mediumship, it's not the spirits communicating, it's you, human being, assessing this. And this is how Kardec is saying here. We need to persevere, we need to continue studying, we need to understand for ourselves. Comments, questions? No?
Okay, number 8. Spiritism can only regard as serious critics those who have seen and studied the whole matter, who have delved into it with the patience and perseverance of a conscientious observer, who have as much understanding of the subject as the most enlightened adherent, who have not therefore acquired their understanding via literary science fiction, who will not attempt to oppose any fact with which they are unfamiliar, or any argument upon which they have not meditated or have refuted only by denying it, but who use other arguments that are more peremptory. Finally, those who can point to a more logical course behind the established facts, such critics have yet to appear.
There is a writer, I think he's an American writer, Malcolm Gladwell, that he wrote that in order for us to consider ourselves experts in anything, we need to dedicate 10,000 hours to it.
Wow.
And 10,000 hours, roughly 2 hours a day, every day of the week, means almost 20 years. So how can someone, just because they read 1, 2, 3 books, say, I don't believe in the Pythagoras theorem, or I don't believe in, you know, in all what medicine is talking about now. I don't believe that man went to the moon. It was all like, you know, fake news. I mean, we have to have basis for that. Maybe not necessarily go to the point of 10,000 hours to be really an expert on the subject, but at least 5,000 hours. And one thing that is interesting is, even in the story of this country and others as well, is that many people, scholars, judges, scientists, we have here Judge Edmonds and Alfred Wallace, also that, you know, a scientist, so many that went with the intention of contradicting and proving that all of that was wrong, came out saying, now I just have reason to believe, and gave their testimonials just saying exactly that. Here in the whole process that we had with the Fox sisters, so many times, as a lot of people that we would consider as being more endowed to appreciate, to analyze whether those were true or fact phenomena, they went as skepticals and came back as advocates of the spiritual contact. Why? Because they dedicate themselves. They didn't just go saying it doesn't exist. Okay, my understanding is that doesn't exist, but I will go and see for myself. And they saw different. And so this is what Kardec is saying here. And I think this is can be applied in our day-to-day lives. It doesn't mean just in terms of how we place ourselves in terms of spiritism, right? Since I mentioned the microwave, I remember that many households would prefer not to have them because they would damage the health or this or that. There was a lot of superstition in regarding to that. I only imagine that it's the same thing when the washing machine arrived. I still like my linen closet cleaned by my hand, until you saw all your neighbors having extra time, not charging their hands anymore, and say, oh, maybe it's time for me to have an open mind and see what this is about. Or even the television, I can only imagine, people saying, oh no, the radio is going to be much better. And well, all this images moving is making me dizzy, or all these things that we create, right? And now it's part of our life, and we thank God we have them. Right? How come I have air conditioning? No, only natural air is good for my health. Only freezing is good for my health.
I think so.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Any comment, question?
Sarah, I have a question. What do you attribute to the fact that I think it was Rochester, right, where the Fox sisters were in the United States? The Fox sisters, I think they're Rochester, right? That's where they were located.
Sorry, I couldn't understand. Rochester, you say? No.
I think that's where the Fox sisters were, right? If I'm not mistaken.
No, they were from Hydesville.
Oh, yes.
Small, and Hydesville was actually like a little farm of Mr. Hyde. And so that's why it was called Hydesville. and there they had, the little houses of workers, of people that were renting. I don't know quite well how it was. And there it was what happened, the upstate New York. And nowadays, Hydesville doesn't exist anymore. And everything that was in Hydesville from the Fox sister and all this research and everything that happened is in the city that is called Lilydale, that is in the whereabouts of of Hydesville. It's it's in that same region. But yes, they first made their first, this grandiose appearance in the city of Rochester in November 14, 49, 50, something like that. I don't remember quite well, 49, 50, 51. And I think it was 49. And so Rochester was the main place where they become known. They were, they had this more public contact, and it was big. And it's even interesting because they made 3 presentations there, going through all this analysis, excruciating analysis, and the first day there was like 250 people, and people screaming and saying this is not true. And the more they were screaming and saying these are not true, the more the next day was sold out, and the more people would come. I think from one day to the next, instead of 250, they had 400. And Rochester at that time was, like the New York City of the area. So it was a very, very prominent city, and many important things happen in that city.
So my question was related to that, right? Why is the place was very strategic, right? For that to be appearing there, because I think when I think of Spiritism and how they explained that Brazil was a very fertile ground after you came out in France, right? Like to really flourish because of the open-mindedness and, the mix of people. So do you attribute to the fact that that location was specifically because of because I mean, I'm sure, like you said, they're under scrutiny. They're probably being very, there's a lot of contradiction on what people are trying to put on them. So I just wonder, like, there's a connection to the place itself.
The connection, we can find it, the spirits themselves telling us in the Spiritist Review.
Mhm.
The United States Spiritist Federation even published a book. There is a condensed version of the Spiritist Review, because it's 12 years. We already have 5 of them published into English. And I made the one volume with excerpts from the 6 years of articles that only mention things that happen in the US, or regarding they're talking about mediums from the US or regarding USA. And I think it's so you have this one book that can, give you a very nice overview that what was published, the Spiritist Review special edition is United States. And there we find one of the articles that, of course, is in the Spiritist Review, I think 1858 or 1859, I don't remember by heart, where the Spirit explains that the United States were the only place that this phenomena could happen. So it was not so much about a particular state, but the whole country. But yes, if we're thinking about the amount of people that lived in the US at that time, and that came, from other countries as, even refugees of their country, or looking for a better opportunity in America, they would come through New York State. And so it was, the population here was very big already. And so the spirit says that the reason why was here, it was because it was the only country in the world that were open to freedom of speech
Mm.
and a very open mind. And so it came here. Any other country, it wouldn't have survived as it survived here. The freedom of thinking and the respect they were already demonstrating towards the immigrants that were bringing different religions.
Mhm.
So this is the reason why it was born in here. And I was watching one interview by a French scholar talking about the spiritual phenomena, where he mentions that this is so huge at that time that we do not realize it, because we are talking mid 800s. He said there was only one place in the world that would dictate everything to other countries, like fashion, intellectuality, how should you dress, what should you read, philosophical concepts, poetry, music, everything, which was France, Europe, and but France specifically. So any ideas, any new philosophical concept were always coming from France. And so he says, this is the first time in history that a thought of this nature, that, you know, everything, that philosophical thought, a revolution of this nature came from an almost indigenous country and took Europe overnight.
Mm.
And so even in terms of sociology, he was talking about that, when you study that, it is of enormous importance, because you know, like I said, so it's really interesting when we study and we see all that happening, and it took form here. It was contributing with the number of medias that were appearing. You see, when Kardec decided to publish a monthly review, the Spiritist Review, right? Here in the US, we already had 17.
Wow.
Philip?
Quick question. Did you say that the 1858 volume is exclusively about things in the US?
48. Oh, the volume. No, I said that we have a special edition. There myself, a special American edition. We have a spirit. If you go to the USSF, spiritist.us, and you look in the bookstore, there is one book that is called Spiritist Review, Special American Edition.
Hmm.
It's about, I don't know, 300 something pages. And there you will find articles like this one, an article about, well, if it happened here, why there was no reincarnation at that point? Why the spirits disclosed just reincarnation in Europe and not in the US? And there are many interesting things that articles that give us a broader idea of what was happening in this country, and mediums that we were really also traveling the world, like the brothers Davenport, and even the Fox sisters. They were traveling the world as well, you know. And so I think considering that each of one of the volume of the Spiritist Review have like more than 500 pages, and we are talking about 12 volumes, that's the reason why I thought about making a special one, very directed to what happened here in American soil. Okay.
The title was Spiritist, not title, but the website is spiritist.us.
Spiritist.us.
Thank you.
Bookstore. Mhm. Yeah. This next item is quite big, actually, and I wouldn't like to leave it. Maybe we could, I don't know, what do we do now? We do talk more
Read.
about.
You want me to read half of it and then we speak, or all of it at one time?
All of it is too much.
Okay, then we'll stop at
Let me see.
a new paragraph begins. I'll stop. Right?
Uh,
Where it says, may I assign him? No.
Let's see here. 15. We
Right.
can go up to miracle, okay?
Okay,
All right.
so miracle.
Where's that?
Let me know, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I stop at miracles, miracle, right?
The
Okay,
last
good enough.
word is miracle, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, we'll begin. 15. We previously made reference to the word miracle, and a brief observation concerning the subject would not be out of place in a chapter dealing with the extraordinary. In its primitive acceptation and according to its etymology, the word miracle means something extraordinary, something wonderful to behold. But this word, like so many others, has strayed far from its original meaning and nowadays refers to, according to academia, an act of divine power that is contrary to the common laws of nature. Such is actually its use, acceptation, and only by comparison or metaphor does it apply to common things that surprise us and whose cause is unknown to us. We have absolutely no intention of examining whether or not, under certain circumstances, God might deem it useful to derogate from the laws that have been divinely established. Our objective is solely to show that as extraordinary as spirit phenomena may be, they do not in any way derogate from those laws, nor is there any miraculous, much less extraordinary or supernatural character about them. A miracle has no rational explanation. Spirit phenomenon, on the other hand, may be explained in a most rational manner. Thus, they are not miracles, but rather simple effects that have their reason for being included among general laws. A miracle has yet another characteristics. It is an uncommon and isolated event. Thus, any event that can be reproduced at will, so to speak, and by several individuals cannot be a miracle.
Okay, so it's very important the way Kardec, in the same way as a professor, right, and a pedagogue, he thought, I mean, he really studied the best way to present to us all the texts, all the information in a very ordinate way, so that one thing could lead to another. So instead of him starting the medium's book, just talking about, the particulars of mediumship, the different kinds of mediums and mediumship, he thought, and we agree with him, that it was very important for him to give us the basis of everything that was happening, all the thoughts, all the process, the knowledge that we have to have, like the ingredients. Okay, first I have to get the ingredients, and then I can go ahead and do what I'm going to do, right? So here, when he's talking about this whole idea in this chapter, the supernatural, etc., and try to explain that miracle has nothing to do with spiritist phenomena, because to us, even if something happens that we may say, wow, this is a miracle, it is not. I'm just saying, in other words, I'm saying it was really so difficult to happen, and it did, is unique, but the fact is, I don't know how it happened, but there is an explanation. How could this happen? It's not that God keeps on changing his mind. Oh, today I like the sky to be blue, and tomorrow is going to be gray. No, it probably will be gray because we are sending so much pollution, right? That maybe the following day we will not even have clear skies, right? So, but we cannot say that it's because God is keeping changing his mind. So it's very important for us to say and to understand that miracle, as we understand the word today, has no place in spiritism. Even when somehow we will still use this terminology, said, you know what, I prayed, and what happened to me is I couldn't classify as less than a miracle. Because people will understand as being so unique. And like Kardec says here, a miracle is something unique. It's not something that we'll keep on repeating. So if spirits are communicating, like it happened here in the US, here and there and everywhere, in mid-1800s, it's not a miracle. Like there is something more behind all that. Okay. Any question, comment?
Okay. Science performs miracles every day in the eyes of the uncultivated. That is why it used to be that those who knew more than the common folk were regarded as witches. And since it was believed that all superhuman science was diabolical, they were burned at the stake. Nowadays, we are more civilized, and it is sufficient to put them in asylum. If someone were really dead and were resuscitated by divine intervention, then, as we stated earlier, we will have a true miracle, because it would be contrary to the laws of nature. However, if the person only appeared to be dead and still preserved a fragment of latent vitality, and science or some magnetic action managed to reanimate him or her, then to enlightened individuals, such would merely be a natural phenomenon. Nonetheless, in the eyes of uncultivated folk, the incident would be regarded as miraculous, and its author would either be chased with stones or venerated, depending on the character of the individuals. If in a rural area, physicists were to fly a kite rigged to attract electricity, which then caused a bolt to strike a tree, this new Prometheus would certainly be viewed as possessing some diabolical power. Moreover, one could say that, remarkably, Prometheus seems to us to have been a precursor to Benjamin Franklin, while Joshua, in making the sun, or rather the earth, stand still, would provide us with a true miracle, because we have never heard of any magnetizer gifted
with power to perform such a
right,
work.
right. Magnetizer gifted with enough power, okay, enough power to perform such a wonder. Of all the spirit phenomena, you want me to continue? Okay.
No, let me stop here.
Okay.
So let me see. Yeah, I keep on thinking, you know, when we saw a match be lighted for the first time.
Hmm.
You know, would say, oh my God, now you bring fire. You know, we do not understand phosphorus. We do not understand the idea of all that, and so many things that we know in history how easily it was for anyone to be accused of having a pact with the devil, you know, of being witches, and poor women, they were more in this category, because anything you would blame on the women, right? And I was even thinking when it talks here about this fragment of latent vitality. Let's a whole image, you know that I have a very vivid imagination, so I start thinking about a person that was laying on the floor, maybe had a cardiac arrest or something like that, and of course we are talking about 15th century 14th century, and but it was not dead yet, but we didn't have, you know, the the device to bring the heart back to life. We didn't know about the first aids, how to do things like this, but there is someone on the family, a loved one, that comes and cannot conform with the death of the loved one and gets into a state of desperation, and he starts hitting their chest, saying, no, you cannot go, why did you disappear? And all of a sudden he leaves to be killed again, because now the devil is the one that is animating his body. Right? Because we didn't know that maybe hitting the chest could bring, you know, the heartbeat beat back. And all of a sudden there is this person that went there's a dead person, and all of a sudden, because of, you know, magic movements that he or she were doing, revive the body, revive the body. So can you imagine, all this scene came to my mind while you were reading. Sorry. but it is true. I mean, I'm sure it happened. I'm sure it happened. And no one thought, oh, maybe if someone is dead and we start pounding on their chest, they might revive. No, they were immediately going to think that this could only be the work of the devil, right? On the part of the one that performed, or now that the person revived, it was like a zombie or something. Oh my God, yeah. And the problem with all that is that We learn from history and we're still doing the same thing.
Yeah. Mhm.
We're still doing the same thing. We are still putting ourselves in a narrow mind way of seeing lives, thinking that we know and understand everything. And this is very dangerous.
There was a woman in Ecuador a couple of days ago that woke up during her wake.
Uh-huh. Oh,
And I wonder how you explain that.
uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, they said that she wasn't dead.
Yeah, right.
She was in the coffin and she made a noise and they took her to the hospital. There was some file up that, in the hospital, but they said she was dead and she wasn't dead.
Right.
Yeah, that was,
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, she was not dead for sure, because there is no derogation of the law of God. But like we said, so many people were buried alive because there was no way that we could say that whether you are dead or not. I for one sure have gone through this experience, because one of the things that is in my will is I go to João and say, when they declare me dead, please go there and kill me. Put a knife in my heart or something. But I mean, it is sick, right? I'm so worried about that. I'm so worried about that. Like, or at least if they can still say, donate my organs, because I don't want to be buried alive.
no.
Okay, so yeah, so I think there is some trauma in there, right? Yeah, but that's the only explanation. And let's finish this.
Okay. If,
Just a second. Yeah. Okay. Let's read it to the end.
yeah. We're at, if someone were really dead,
What? Sorry.
yeah.
Of all
We're,
the spirit phenomena? Oh, you are asking a question, sorry.
yeah, no, I'm asking where we left off. Isn't it on, where is it that we left off?
It's here, of
What?
all the spirit phenomena. Oh,
Okay, of course, okay. Of all the spirit phenomena, one of the most extraordinary and indisputable, and one that most obviously demonstrates the action of hidden intelligences, involves direct writing, despite the fact that it produced by hidden beings. However, this particular phenomenon is no more miraculous than any of the others that are also caused by invisible agents. For these invisible beings who inhabit space are one of the very powers of nature, a power that unceasingly acts both upon the physical and the mental worlds. By enlightening us concerning the true nature of this power, Spiritism has provided us with the key to an infinite number of occurrences that are unexplained and unexplainable matters in any other way, in which in remote times were regarded as wonders. As was the case in magnetism, Spiritism has revealed, if not an unknown law, at least a poorly understood one, or rather, a law whose effects we have always known about because they have been produced down through the ages, but whose governing law had been unknown. It was therefore ignorance of such law that gave rise to superstition. However, since the law has been understood, the extraordinary has disappeared and the phenomenon have been reintegrated into the order of natural events. Hence, by enabling a table to move or the dead to write, Spiritists do not perform any more of a miracle than a doctor who revives a person on the edge of death, or a physicist who manages to attract a bolt of lightning. Anyone who intended to perform miracles with the help of Spiritist science would either be ignorant of the doctrine or a charlatan.
Okay, so here Kardec gives an example that we are going to study more later about the direct writing. For those who do not know what direct writing is, it's instead of the automatic writing, the psychography where you use the hand, the pen, all being maneuvered by the medium. We are talking about, like they used to do. They would leave a piece of paper and a pencil and lock in a place and have their, the mediumship meeting there, so to say. And when they open the little drawer and unlock it and get the paper, they would have a message. So this is direct writing, and people would say, "Oh my God, this is a miracle." I mean, nowadays with invisible ink, we we cannot perform. We can not know for sure if this is a hoax or not. But at that time, they didn't have this possibility, right? So this was really an extraordinary phenomena. But like they say, even then, the more it strikes the mind, it doesn't mean that it is a miracle. Very much like when today, it's not because we do not understand certain things that are done already and known to the field of science that we will say that they are a miracle, right? And so I think this is basically what we have here. I don't know, and yeah, I think this last phrase, anyone who says on behalf of Spiritism that performs miracles, it is not a Spiritist or does not know Spiritism that can do things. It's not like that, because even if we have the possibility, like when we were talking about the in vitro fertilization, we have the possibility, but if it's not what it was supposed to happen, the spark of life is not going to animate the cells to become a human body. Okay, any more comments or questions? Nope.
Facts now. Sorry. Do you know of any facts nowadays of magnetism that people perform outside Spiritism, where you see the phenomena happening more like maybe on a treatment level, or like, is that something that's common outside Spiritism or no?
Even at the time of Kardec, he was striving for us to go beyond the phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
So always emphasizing that everything was actually happening to call our attention that there is more to life, to immortal life, than we just think, right? And the testimonial of the spirit saying that, what they are going to meet there is, what they have done here is a meritocracy, so to say, right? And this would help us to reevaluate our choices, our way of being, behaviors. And but it is still one possibility. I think there are so many things that we could say. It's also like a miracle when we get a message from a loved one. But in terms of magnetism, even when we talk about magnetism in Spiritism, we know that the magnetizer, because this is more of, this is not mediumship, this is anemic, a psychic effect, right? It's not mediumship, it's psychic abilities. So especially when we're talking about clairvoyance, clairaudience, healing is more of a psychic mediumship that we will be talking more as we continue the study here. But yeah, there are people that are endowed with that. And in terms of spiritism, even when we are talking about the psychic ability and not mediumistic ability, we never discard the combination of the two of them. Because if you have a psychic ability, but at the same time you do know about spirituality, about the presence of the spirits, about the help, it is always going to be connected. So there are not, I mean, there is, this is still phenomena that is happening around the world. Okay, people there are trying to work with the displacement of objects, with healing, with the materialization of spirits, the donating ectoplasm. But in the spiritist environment, community, so to say, is not as common. I mean, if it happens spontaneously, and maybe they can start developing work more directed to that, but otherwise it's not going to be the primary goal. But having said that, every time that we are in Spiritist Center and understanding the needs of people and praying and doing the passes, the laying on of hands, we know that healing will happen. We know that we as human beings, some of us are more endowed with the possibility of having, so to say, extra ectoplasm, extra vitality, and it is going to be combined with the direction and all the other energies that is needed for this to happen, as we see in the book in the domain of mediumship. So we know that this happens on a daily basis in each and every serious spiritist organization.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Anything else?